Reynolds, would you lead us in the prayer, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Subject for tonight is the power of unity and community from Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 12. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Amen.
Amen. Please in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will have audio and video recorders in use. Anyone who would like to address the board, please fill out the member forum sign-up sheet, and remember that each speaker has 3 minutes to speak. And right off the bat, I'm going to apologize for my voice this evening. I'm a little jet lagged and I'm losing it a little bit, so hopefully it'll stick with me for a minute. First on the agenda is the approval of minutes and transcripts for the May 19th closed executive session and the regular board meeting minutes and transcripts. Have we all had a chance to review those? And can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the May 19 closed executive session minutes and the May 19 regular board meeting minutes and transcripts as provided.
Second for discussion.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have one item that I think needs correction in the minutes. The total of the legal expense in the Romy White case is reported as, and it was discussed this way, so it's not, it wasn't reported incorrectly, but it's it says in the minutes that it's a year-to-date total, and it's actually a cumulative total since the case began.
Understood. And so we can make that correction?
Yeah, I've already talked with Emerald about it.
Excellent. So we need to amend the motion.
I would amend the motion to include the May 19th regular board meeting minutes and as corrected by Mark's comment.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? Can we have a vote? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Next, approval of memberships. I see we have for May 283 new memberships, 282 canceled, 0 transfers. And I get a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Can we have a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. 7 ayes. Unfinished business for the Sage contract for the software RFP. Mr. Krigler, would you walk us through it?
Sure. So last month the board heard a demo from Cargus. They are the firm that would do the implementation of the Sage Intact software. After this presentation and at the board meeting, the board voted to approve the purchase pending legal review of the Cargus contract. That review has happened. We sent them comments. We received a response from them. The responses were for the most part satisfactory. I think they agreed to 4 or 5 of the items. I think there's 4 or 5 of the items that we still want to discuss a little further. But we didn't feel like there was any really red flags in there. It was really just seeing if they will accommodate our comments there. Much of it had to do with the time and materials versus the fixed price type methodology, and that kind of stuff. But like I said, I think we've at a point where the majority of their responses are acceptable, and it's just negotiating the last few points in our favor. I did want to also update the pricing. So the pricing they had presented to the board last month did expire at the end of May. We have updated those numbers. They are higher, and I do want to point out one issue on the implementation cost is They presented that cost initially as a range, and we had used the middle of the range in our estimate last month. I don't think that's probably the best thing to do. I put the top of the range in there now. If you look on, I believe it's page 5 or page 6 of their proposal there, they gave a range of $46,750 to $63,250 for the implementation. So we had put 55 in as a midpoint last month. I didn't feel good about doing that again. So we went ahead and used the high end of that range, which is the $63,250. The other item that's different is their proposal included an item for Sage Intact, their premium customer care plan, which is $7,000. That was not in the estimate last month either. So that accounts for the difference. So you'll see the implementation cost at $70,250. The actual software cost is $9,600 for the year, and then going forward, future years would be $43,000 to $60 for renewal. So that's kind of where we're at. So we want to proceed with this. We want to get this approved while we continue to get resolution on the final comments, so we can get this implemented.
Mr. Krigley, on the customer care plan, I know the last time we talked about, there was mileage and cost per hour included in servicing us. Does the customer care plan probably doesn't address any of that? What is that designed to do?
It does not address travel costs. When we asked about travel costs and limiting travel costs, their response was, well, there's no official travel plan for the implementation. They plan to do it remotely, and then they just said, well, the travel costs are variable. So we understand that, but I think you know, we can work with them to try to limit that, but that the customer care plan is nothing to do with the travel costs. I'm not quite sure. Do we know exactly
More
what
for
they're?
support.
Support throughout the year, ongoing technical support.
So refresh my memory from a month ago, so we have a range for the implementation. What's the
Yeah.
purpose of the range instead of a number? Is it because they're hedging their bets as to what the legal negotiations come to, the contract
No,
negotiations?
I think their standard protocol is to give the customer a range in the hopes that it may not, you know, cost at the high end of the range, and it could come in less if the implementation goes quicker than they hoped or planned. But I think, like I said, I think it's safe to use the high end of that range for our planning purposes.
So it sounds like they're providing a cost plus contract instead of a firm fix?
Well, they're giving us, they're calling it, they're saying it's to be billed at actual time and materials, so that's time and materials.
Okay.
But, you know, I think what the board's approving is essentially a not to exceed. Although, you know, they're gonna bill what they need. So we would like to, you know, we certainly wanna keep them within the range the board approves. That's the intent of what we're doing here tonight. But part of this is how we interact with them. You know, we're to some degree in control of what we ask them to do and what not to do. So the intent is that we would monitor that and know where we are from a cost standpoint along the way.
Okay, and part of their implementation, I know last time we talked about having a sandbox set up, and that's still part of the plan. Last I knew was that could be part of the plan once we were under contract. They set up a sandbox, for lack of a better term, that we could use our data and manipulate it. Is that still the case? Or am I off base in my memory?
Is what you're referring to as sandbox while other system is still active?
Yes.
I don't know,
A
that's not.
test database that we get to use and verify
That's
this
not my
stuff works
understanding of
as
how they do
before.
it.
You don't think they said that last time? Okay,
It's not my understanding of what they're intending to do.
okay. Then, short of that, have we developed a test plan? I mean, what did they build the implementation cost on? Their prescribed test that they plan to do, or the ones that we want them to do? In particular, I'd like to see a test plan, or, no, I don't wanna get in the weeds, not my job. I would hope the test plan would include, you know, in their presentation, they talked about what our current systems does not do. I would hope our test plan verifies the new system does every one of those, and none of those are an issue anymore. So I'm just, the big question is, do we have a test plan? What's the definition of, yes, this works, we accept it, and stop your implementation costs today?
Director Linnell, you're speaking of a beta test, are you not?
No, I'm not speaking of, well, yes, it's a beta test from the aspect of, no, not beta test as I'm used to in a prior world where we did testing. It was the operational test is not a beta test. The operational test is an operational test, and there may be issues that come out, but we didn't call it a beta test. I mean, it was an operational test. You know,
Yes.
it's supposed to meet all our requirements, but you have to have a test plan to verify it meets our requirements.
Director Linnell, you look at the contract and on pages, starts on page 8, it's the statement of work, and it goes through page 15. It has the phases of the build and the data, and it provides the reports that this is my understanding is what staff asked for, and this is what was the implementation process. And then deployment on page 14, it is definitely, they did say they don't go live on your data until the staff is convinced and assured that it works.
Okay.
And that's when they go live. That's shown on page 14 under phase 4, deploy.
So these 4 or 5 sheets are the test plan, and we developed those sheets. We told them this is what we want to see.
We had input into them, this is their scope of work, but we had input in it. And the other thing I would add is that we have Rayburn Consulting available to help us on this process as well. So they're gonna be involved in meetings and involved at milestones to make sure that this is going like it's supposed to go.
Okay.
Will there be additional costs to Rayburn for
Yes.
their involvement?
Yes.
Additional cost for what?
For
Rayburn's
Rayburn's involvement?
Yeah, they were tasked essentially with the initial assistance of selecting the software. They've completed that task, so now they're in more of a time and materials arrangement as well as needed. We're not currently using them right now at all, but if we need them, we will hire them.
Do we have a projection on that, Mr. Krigler?
Yeah, so when we get farther down the road with like the utility billing software, we're gonna need I think we're gonna need Rayburn a lot more for that. But we think their involvement will be pretty minor for this because Cargus is doing the implementation, that's what they do, and they're familiar with that process. So we feel like it's on the order of 40 hours or less. We don't see it being a major effort.
And Jeff, you might have already stated this, but the customer care plan, is that a one-time fee or annual for $7,000?
So, I believe it's an annual fee, yeah, 'cause it's part of the 43,000. The 43,000 is the software renewal plus that.
40 hours at about what per hour? Do we know what the hourly rate is?
I don't have Rayburn's billing sheet in front of me. I would assume it's in the ballpark of $200 an hour, but that's just the ballpark.
Thank you, Mr. Krigler.
So, sorry for beating the dead horse, but, so we've got in front of us the test plan. Phase 1 is defined, so none of these have started yet, correct? Phase 1 is after they're under contract.
Correct.
Okay, so phase 1, HNWS task and deliverables, define, confirm the requirements for the project success, approve the functional requirements document, na. I mean, those, getting to the requirements I'm talking about, are those already delineated somewhere? Do we already have this written down, so if they wanted to start next week, we could? I mean, it's not gonna, I'd like to know the answer, it's not gonna affect, It's not
Right.
gonna affect my vote, but this is what I'm talking about. We've gotta be ready.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't understand your question. I mean, we're gonna follow this scope of work.
Well,
But maybe
can-
repeat your question.
Can we real quick go to page 10? And at the very top, it says define, confirm the requirements for project success. Where have we done that? Where do we plan to do? That's what I'm wondering is approve the functional requirements document. I mean, that's a phrase I'm really familiar with from a long time ago. Do we have requirements anywhere?
I mean, they're gonna develop a requirements document.
No, they aren't.
They're gonna
We
do
are.
they're gonna do a business process workshop with us and develop that document. And everything kind of flows from that.
So with all respect, Jeff, I don't think that's what this document says. That phase one define, it's what they're doing blah, 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 develop the functional, we have to confirm it.
Yeah, they're doing it
Okay.
in conjunction with us being present. And we would have opportunity to comment on that.
And the requirements for project success. That's the main one, that's that first one, and that's not under their list. We have to tell them what's project success, and that's, I mean, I'll just be pinging. Pinging like an idiot over the next few months or month until, you know, somebody says, yeah, we've got our requirements list. So, okay. I'm bringing a level of testing that's probably not done in this world, but it's the only testing I know of. That's it for me.
Any other discussion? So,
I'll make a motion that we approve Cargus implementing Sage Intact in the amount of $79,850, pending favorable resolution of any legal comments.
I'll second it for discussion. Does the motion not need to include all the costs that are listed there? Did I miss something?
Well, yeah, so the 79,000 is the first two bullet items, the 2026 implementation plus the
Yeah.
2026 software. So the future years are not in that figure.
Understand? I'd like to see it in the figure. I mean, the
I'll
future.
add that to the motion that we approve the initial cost of $79,850 and future year cost of $43,060.
Is that annual?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second it. Again.
any other discussion?
Yes, I would like to know, I'm very familiar with identifying requirements for project success. When are we looking to start this whole process? Phase one, when is that, does that happen? Is that like next month or 2 months from now, 3 months from
Well,
now?
I certainly hope it'll get underway next month.
And so delineating what the exact items are that you all are looking for to determine the project's success, that will be happening momentarily along with the Cargill or the Rayburn people or both.
That's correct.
So they're gonna be coming out here, we're doing virtual training and identifying all of this, or how is that happening?
Yes, it'd be on remote, and once again, they'll follow these bullet items and once again, start with a business process workshop, come up with the requirements document. Then that also includes going over the design of the chart of accounts for Barbara. And then from there, we go on to the next steps, which includes the requirements for project success.
And largely, you all know what you want out of this, right? You've got a big old list of stuff that you want that's going to go into that requirements list, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So 3/4 of that's already done. True statement?
I wouldn't say a written list. I mean, we know the process, so with the demos, they've answered our questions. they've showed us everything we needed to see.
So it's all in the process, nothing has been quantified in writing,
Correct.
and that's what I'm after, right? Okay, and the functional requirements document, is that's yet to be produced, right?
Correct.
Based on what's required for project success.
Right.
Thank you.
Guys, the only thing I would add, having been through many of these, is one of the most critical pieces of this is properly defining the functional document, because your contractor is going to work to that. It's not their job to ferret out from us what we want. It's our job to tell them in great detail what we want. And if we come back to them in a week or two after we've done this and we've signed off on it and we add, then that will be additional cost. So I would encourage you to have written documentation of exactly the functionality that we need that does not exist today, or that does exist and we have to do additional workarounds that we expect to be solved. And you need to have that in front of you during these workshops. My understanding was that Rayburn had helped produce that, yet they have not yet shared it with any member of the board. I would expect that you can share that with us over the next 10 days so that we can be more assured that we're moving in the right direction, as this is the first of many additional software costs that you'll bring to us. Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to add that having this information in writing, comprehensively compiled, will serve as a corporate memory document going forward for when a subsequent staff, everybody rolls off, and new staff comes in, Barbara retires or gets, a great opportunity in New York or something like that. That documentation will be critical to replicate in the event that this is not a satisfactory solution. So going forward, what was it that was asked for that did not function and work correctly, that now we may have to go to a third? It's just proper planning. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, can I have a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I did not vote. I was long on the uptake there. My vote is yes.
7 ayes. Thank you. Next, walking through the pay bands recommended by Human Resources. Mr. Krigler, can you walk us through that as well, please?
Yes, sure. So, back in March, I believe, we looked at some compensation figures and comparisons, mostly based on the AWWA wage compensation survey that they put out every year. Based on that, we did develop pay bands for each position. I believe we have, I think it's 47 unique positions. So we have a pay band for each one. You'll notice the lowest number in there is $18 an hour, which is our starting hourly wage today. As discussed previously, we would like to increase that by $1 an hour in the next 2 years and get that to 20 as part of our plan. So this includes, obviously the bands have a high end and a low end. If somebody was above the high end, they would essentially be capped out pending, additional responsibility or change to their job description that would affect them. The low end is a little different. We'd like to get the employee within the range, but sometimes it takes time and can't do those adjustments overnight sometimes, so that might be more of a stepwise process. So it really helps us just remain competitive and be competitive in the marketplace. And we think this is the right thing to do from an HR perspective going forward.
And we would be implementing the implementation plan we discussed back in March,
Yes.
okay? Can I have a motion?
So I move we approve the provided pay bands as delineated in the package.
Get a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to say that this is a snapshot in time, that's what the pay bands are as of this date, that, you know, they are gonna change over time as minimum wage continues to go up and other factors happen, but I'm okay for approving them to start with for now.
So, to follow up on that, Mark, yeah, they are for right now, and they change. They don't change very often in my past, and I wouldn't be looking for these to change. So if you think they change monthly or quarterly, that's not, certainly not my expectation. They might only change either with legislation and minimum wage goes up, or we decide to change minimum wage and/or we implement a COLA across the board. And to me, a COLA across the board with regards to the pay bands, not everybody's salary. So yeah, they do change, but slowly.
Yeah, I didn't mean a monthly or quarterly change,
Okay.
but, you know, every year or two, they probably need
Yeah.
to be relooked at.
Well, I'm fine with saying every year they get looked at. Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Let's get into the Tom King Bayou project, Mr. Krigler.
Yeah, so Phil and I attended a meeting with county staff and Jacobs Engineering, who's doing the program management for the county for administration of the grant. This was about 10 days ago. And it was a good meeting. The main thing to come out of that is the county has proposed some project communications and started the discussion of a project communication plan. So you'll see in tab 3 there's a letter from Santa Rosa County there to the residents, and this would be sent to each address in the project area. And it kind of explains that there's a grant, what it's for, why these improvements are needed. It gets into the Florida statutes for connection, and then it goes on to give the homeowners their kind of options of what they can expect. So we'll have to follow up with this. You know, they've got a letter drafted, and then they also have a door hanger that they want to send out for maybe the folks that either don't get the letter or to provide additional information. But I look at this as just the start of the communication. We'll have to follow up after this with more specific information targeted to those individuals. In addition, in the next month or two, the board will have to kind of make some decisions about how we want to handle the system capacity fees for these residents. We've had a couple discussions here at the board level, but most likely we'll have to come up with some way to allow financing of that system capacity fee, and then the board also is going to want to discuss if they want to do any type of incentive type discount, how long and what that might look like. So those decisions will come hopefully July, August timeframe. We can get that ironed out, and in the meantime, we'll continue working on our communications out there. Ultimately, I think we're going to have some type of workshop with the residents. That probably won't happen until I would guess the fall. Messi has been tasked with designing these improvements. They've just started, so we're still in the surveying phase. We got to get the survey data, get that back, and then we can do the design plans. All that probably going to take 6 to 9 months. I don't see us bidding this thing until first quarter 2027 ballpark. But now's the time to start getting our policies in place and getting the project communication going. So once again, this is just presented as a, information at this time, and there'll be more to follow.
Mr. Krigler, I would like to applaud you for your comments about addressing the remaining residents that won't be handled in this grant. I think it's three-phased, about 180 homes. There are other residents out there that are unable to afford such a change. And in the interest of water quality and the impact, we definitely need to look at this going forward, and I look forward to that discussion in the upcoming months. Thank you.
Great.
So I do have one question, just for clear up a misconception I'm under. Seems like an obvious misconception. If you prefer not to participate under that, the first bullet says, under Florida statutes, once the service is available, homeowners may be required to connect their septic, if their septic system fails. That's not the word, may isn't the word I thought was gonna appear there. Does it all have to do with subjective use of the word fail?
Yeah, my understanding is if it fails, they're not gonna have a lot of options, they're probably gonna have to connect. I think the county intentionally used that language here for a number of reasons. I don't think they wanted to give the impression that anybody was gonna be required to connect.
Okay.
But yeah, I would anticipate if that line's available and the tank has failed and cannot be repaired, they'll be required to connect.
Okay. That was my understanding. It just seems strange to see it written differently. Okay.
And so Jeff, your comments on financing or incentivizing, have you got some thoughts on that we should be considering?
Yeah,
for
I
next month's
do.
meeting?
I do. I think for the financing, I think we're talking about probably some type of 5 to 7 year window. Barbara and I need to probably look at the numbers. And then, in terms of the incentive, just based on the fact that, financially, we really can't forgive the whole system capacity fee, because that's what pays for the capacity at the treatment plant and the downstream lift stations and large diameter pipelines. But I think an incentive to, somewhere in that 10% range, I think is what we need to be looking at, if they sign on to participate in the project up front during that time frame.
Currently, that system capacity fee, it's $4,200.
$4,200, that's correct. So it'll be about a $420 discount if you go with that type of plan.
Is there any reason, board members, that we couldn't make this decision for Jeff tonight? So that he could begin his communication package?
I guess I'd need to have the position restated.
So I think we're talking about allowing participants in the project to finance their system capacity fee for a 5-year period, and also if they sign on during the relative time frame when we're signing people up for the project, that they would be eligible for a 10% discount of the system capacity fee. And then once the project starts and is over, they would not be eligible for that.
And so we would give them some period of time to, in your communication, to
Yes.
consider it, saying, from this date to this date, if you sign up, this is what we can offer.
That's correct.
And do you see that being a 30-day window, 60, 90?
I don't think it'd be a little longer. I mean, I think they could potentially sign up until the point we go out there and start work. There's a couple, in addition to as part of sign up, they have to sign a right of entry agreement. The plumbers have to go on their property and do work. That'll be a plumber working for our contractor, conceivably, so they'll have to sign a release for that. So there'll be some documentation they need to fill out, and that'll be part of that. So I think it's gonna take some time to work through that with all those residents. So I see that being more like a 6-month time frame.
So we would follow what the county is publishing as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr.
Mr. President, if I could.
Yes.
And, the CEO may be able to help with that. It's my understanding in the documentation from, Ms. Doler, talks about during the designation period, or the designated period. I think that is a period that is required by the grant. I'm not certain, but I do think that there is a defined time of the designated sign-up period. And I would encourage us to follow that, so we didn't have two running timelines.
Agreed.
And then the other thing I wanted to clarify, I don't know for certain, Director Linnell, that the May was, exactly why that was. I do know for certain that it is not the county or this utility company that makes that decision. It's the health department. So it's a different organization that tells you whether you have to or you do not have to connect to the sewer. And if the health department says your septic system has failed, then you must connect. If the health department says that it's fine, then you get to make a decision as a homeowner. This company don't have that, neither does the county.
I understand that.
So that may be why it's a different
It may.
agency.
Mhm.
And I think that's gonna be important, because I just foresee that if someone has a problem, it's not gonna be with you, except they're gonna show up here. Because the health department doesn't have a monthly board meeting in which you can come and speak. So I think that's important to know up front who is in charge of making different decisions and questions that you'd wanna ask at the right time.
And we will be glad that you'll be here to help
I'll be
quantify that.
Mr. President?
Yes.
With all due respect, after hearing this, there's more than meets the eye here, and I would like to encourage us to agree to allow our CEO to go back to the drawing board, put all of these legal comments, caveats together, and have it on the agenda maybe next month, so it's more comprehensive and as accurate as can possibly be, to present it to the new members out there that aren't part of this three-phased project with the county.
Jeff, you're good with that?
Yes.
So that was gonna be my motion if I made one, so if we don't need one, that's great, but the only thing I'd like to change from what Carmen said was, instead of maybe present it, please present it next month to us,
Let's make it an agenda item for next month.
please.
Okay. Any other discussion before we move into new business? Let's jump into it for the insurance renewal package policies. Mr. Krigler, please walk us
Yes.
through it.
So Alex Niedermeyer is here with Underwood Anderson. He's gonna go over the renewal packages for both, the water system and the club at Hidden Creek. Maybe before he jumps in, I kind of explained some of our overall strategies here. The first one was we did decide to continue with wind coverage on the occupied buildings for the water system here. And the other kind of decision we made with Alex recently was to not provide coverage on the water towers. The water towers are never covered for wind. The industry procedure there is you fill them with water before a storm, and they weight so much that typically a storm they don't have any issues typically during a storm. So we really don't see a real need to cover those water towers. I think that the main incidents that we would have would be like a lightning strike or something. But I think even then, with deductibles and how frequently that type of thing happens, plus the fact that the tanks have lightning protection on them, we didn't see the value in that coverage. So that was kind of two of the things we talked about with Alex as we worked this up. But I'll turn it over to him and let him go over the highlight of our policies.
Yeah, so we start about 3 months out. let the team kind of go over everything. Every year, it's the same process. Usually every year, and I will speak to it this year, is usually it's a pretty in-depth checks and balances of the location addresses and building values. In the last 5 years, everybody's seen it on their homeowner's insurance. That's the one thing everybody carries, and their own personal auto insurance is rates continue to go up. So we always try to make sure we get our creative hats on to go, well, how are we quantifying it? Some of you who were board members last year, we talked about this. Mr. Linnell, I think you brought it up last year. We talked about the wind a little bit and maybe the concerns in not carrying wind. My favorite things to say these days, post Hurricane Sally, are the math has to math. And so by the time we add up deductibles and the likelihood of an insurance company actually cutting you a check, we can do that math before that time ever comes to pass. So we try to hit it ahead, set up scenarios of when is my professional opinion on an insurance company paying out a claim, which is why we've kind of morphed, again, for those of you who are new to the board, why we've kind of morphed away from wind coverage only being on certain locations. Because as Jeff said, I mean, there may, to a certain degree, it's not we, it's your money, but you guys are paying for coverage on something that the company's never gonna cut you a check for, from a mathematical standpoint, okay? So that's probably the overarching conversation when it comes to the insurance renewals is property insurance, property insurance, property insurance. Yes, there are other lines there. You guys can look at the premium summary page. As to the breakdown of each line of coverage, okay, we'll talk about Grundy, which has been the carrier that we've had you guys with now going on at least 12 years. I think maybe a couple of years in there. There's a company called Glatfelter that is probably the second best water utility program out there, or used to be. They have stopped entertaining property insurance altogether, even excluding the wind. Okay, they don't want fire, they don't want lightning, they don't want any of it. If it's in Florida, no thank you. That's the position they've taken. Although I say that, we have a couple of systems that we insure in the north ends of the counties that do still have Glatfelter, that are covering the wind. They have been with them for now probably 8+ years. And I hate to use the word grandfathering because that doesn't really happen as much anymore, but they're kind of grandfathered into that. So the closer you get to the coast, the more scared and the more underwriters hide under their desk, and we have to try to coax them out. Okay, so in the last 5 years, we have seen significant rate increases, probably on average 30% year over year, easily. I will say this is the first year, last quarter of last year, we saw property insurance specifically start to get softer. That is the biggest point of talking point here, is talking about all these companies having all their massive rate increases, and they clearly more than made their money back in 2 to 3 years. The rates for this year, even on the Grundy package, and you guys can probably see the notes down there. There's lots in this packet. Okay, I'm just trying to hit the highlights. It's always a growing system. One of the biggest changes this year is property value increases. This goes back to my comments about Jeff and Barbara and team going down the list of locations. Are we okay with these property valuations? Should they be higher? This year is probably the largest bump I think we've had on property valuations that we've had in a few years. Call it what you want, tariffs, whatever else, just cost to build things these days just continues to be high. And I think when you guys did the remodel in here and added on, maybe kind of opened some eyes to, well, maybe we're not at replacement cost, okay? Because that's what we're talking about here, right? Replacement cost valuation. Had it been apples for apples from a coverage standpoint from last year, the Grundy package itself, it would have been up, but it would have been probably single-digit increase, maybe around 9%. Yeah, it's still an increase, but nothing on par with what they have been, 30%, and nowhere close to where any of the other carriers would have been. We submit this to Glatfelter every year. Every year they tell us they would be double, and they don't want the property insurance at all. And any other carrier is going to be breaking out. There's a company called Watercolor based out of Alabama. They're a kind of a broker that packages a bunch of stuff. You guys are way too big for them. They really like the smaller rural systems. Pidgeot is a carrier. You've got to be part of the Sunshine Law for that. It's more of a governmental Pidgeot, professional governmental is what that stands for, that you guys don't qualify for, and the program isn't quite as rich. But Grundy continues to be, year in and year out, the de facto carrier for water systems. We have several other water systems with them. You can look at some of the neighboring counties. They are probably already with them, and just are the cat's meow when it comes to this stuff. This year, for the first time, I had the office go ahead and break down by coverage what Grundy is doing. For the purposes, well, two things. Commercial property ex-wind, you can see the premium there, that 108. And I want you guys to scroll down, and this is page 37 of 41 of my proposal. The commercial auto premium there, that 106,772. We have 80-something pieces. That means autos, power units, and trailers. I think power units alone, I think it's low 70s. If we were to carve that out, the auto alone with anybody else would probably easily be 200 grand. And we talk about this being kind of a package program type policy. This is what you get when you deal with somebody who, this is all, well, Grundy does a lot of different things, but this is their water system program. This is all they do. This team of underwriters all day, every day, all week, this is all that they write. So it's just kind of a, and then again, you'll see, you know, professional liability and your D&O and employment practices. I mean, it is a true full package policy. Whereas if we start breaking everything out, those things start to add up, and the main one that would add up is the commercial autos. It would probably easily be, I mean, maybe even at the best of best rates, 150. But we've run that math with the autos by themselves, and it's close to 200. So we can jump back into wind only. We reached out to a couple other carriers that will do the wind only. They just couldn't touch where we are. We use the same carrier and broker on several other properties. They just do a killer job. And the property, the wind-only property policy was actually, when we didn't make any changes to it, they sent us the renewal, and it was actually slightly less. It was about 10 grand less than it would have been last year. So had there been 0 changes and we just renewed it as is, the Grundy package would have been a smidge, and the wind-only policy actually would have been down $8,000–10,000. So that's a little bit of just a snapshot of what's going on in insurance right now, and mainly on the commercial property side, is some positivity there on rates coming down. But again, a lot of some increases payroll. We've got some good ones there. Again, in the property valuations, bumped from 25 million to 29 million. And then on the wind-only piece, 3.7 to 8.7. We got some equipment increases. So the majority of the increase that you see is property value driven, mostly.
I've got a question. I'm looking at over the assets that we're covering. We've got 70+ lift stations that we're covering. What type of risks are we covering a lift station for?
Let me take that first. So We debated a lot about how much do we cover on these lift stations. The lift station has a large concrete wet well in the ground, which we don't think would be harmed by a storm, so we chose not to cover that. What we are covering is the electrical controls that are above ground, which are very expensive. And we bumped those up. I think each station's around, is it 70 grand?
So, yeah.
Around $74,000. And we think that's a pretty good place to be, but yeah, it's really just those above ground electrical panels is what we're insuring.
Are they insured for flood if it floods out?
Negative. Fire, lightning, I mean, again, we talked about this before, but, you know, I mean, a car hitting it, I mean, that certainly could happen. Hopefully an automobile has liability insurance. That's part of the reason why auto insurance in Florida is so horrendous, is there are a lot of uninsured drivers out there. And we've seen that. So an automobile could hit it. If they don't have enough insurance, then you guys have got your coverage to be able to jump in there and deal with that if it needed to.
Yeah.
What would the deductible be if there was a claim on the lift station?
I think that is
5,000.
five. Okay, yeah.
5,000, okay.
So I see a total here of 98. Is that the correct number of lift stations? I know generators are mixed in there.
Yes, for those two items, yes.
Thank you.
So on the electronics for the lift stations, are they not sealed? Supposed to
They're-
be sealed?
They're in a NEMA 3 or 4 enclosure, yeah. Weatherproof.
Not necessarily flood.
No.
And I don't think we have any panels that are less than, I'd say, what, 3-4 foot above ground.
Yeah.
So I mean, they typically don't flood, they
Yeah.
typically would get damaged. Could flood.
I'm not concerned about flood, even lift stations that are down close to water. I mean, it'd have to be a tremendous storm to flood them, but a tree could fall, you know, anything could hit and damage them, so.
So what's driving the workers' comp 20% increase?
I would assume it's claims experiences.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a claim experience there, but we've also got a payroll bump.
I thought we just got a reimbursement because we did so well on workers' comp recently, Mr. Krigler.
I thought that reimbursement was health insurance, general health claims, not workers' comp.
How much was that?
That was in the order of $69,000.
And back on the subject of lift stations, one of the members asked me, and they said, do you all have generators, backup generators? And I know we do have some. Do we kind of rob Peter to pay Paul when we're juggling those if we've got multiple lift stations out?
We do. Typically, you know, we kind of assess which ones are the highest concern. Now, a lot of the major ones already have a pump installed there or a generator installed at the site. But for, you know, the subdivisions, we'll just, you know, pick out the ones that are gonna be close to getting high level and put a generator on it, pump it down, and move on to the next one.
Okay. In a flood situation, that could be cataclysmic with,
Yeah, you just do what you can do in that situation.
right, thank you.
Act of God is hard to overcome.
I think my only other question is your commentary around wind. I see a $30,000 increase. I'm confused. You were commenting that it could have stayed the same or gone down,
Yeah.
so help me understand that.
Okay, the increase in the value of the buildings that the wind is insuring.
Okay,
Last year it was 3.7, and the bump this year is up to 8.7.
gotcha.
Yes, sir. So had we left it 3.7, right, it would have been
Understand.
slightly less.
Any other questions? Discussion?
I've got one. Might be off the mark though, but so property values, now we've got it 8.7 million. Does that jive with what the rate study estimate was a year and a half ago so, or are those different values? Did they not look at our property, and does that jive with them?
I don't.
Or do those need to be updated?
Yeah, I don't know that he looked at project cost, I don't know that he looked at the value of the buildings. This is replacing the cost of the buildings themselves, so no, I don't think that was really part of the rate study. He was looking at more identified projects.
Well, I thought he was looking at all infrastructure.
He valued
I
it,
thought
like,
it was, yeah.
he lumped it into that $150 million figure,
Okay.
you know, for our assets, but, I'd have to go back and see what number
Okay.
he had. I don't know that it certainly wasn't the 8, it would have been less than that.
Mr. Niedermeyer, oh, go ahead. I'm
Well,
sorry.
so it went from 3.7 to 8.7 over what time period? Just in 1 year? I mean, was the 3.7 a new number last year? And the 8.7 is new this year? What did we build that drove that valuation up?
I think for a while now, we've been somewhat, I think, underinsured on the values of these buildings.
Okay.
We're just getting them back to where they need to be, really. You know, we finished this expansion for this building here, it's been 2 years now, I guess. But, I mean, just in looking at what it would take to rebuild all of this, the number we had was not correct. For whatever reason, it was not correct, so we updated those values.
Okay. Right.
Mr. Niedermeyer,
Yes, ma'am.
as you reviewed everything, I'm sure you tried to scale this to our benefit the best you could. With regard to the vehicles, were there any observations that you made going forward that where we could tighten something up to decrease that specific area?
As far as like just the premium cost?
Yes.
For autos? You guys are roughly $2,000 per vehicle insurance costs. If I could give other clients that rate on a commercial auto that has $1 million in coverage and $1 million in uninsured motorist, I'd be the wealthiest insurance agent in town.
I'll come to you.
So I say all that to say, yes, are there areas where we could? I'll bring up one. There's uninsured motorist coverage, which, yes, we could drop that down. It has been a council recommendation over the years to maintain that at higher levels. We have an umbrella policy that goes over that. So there are always ways that we could probably try to scale and cut back. Auto insurance is a little bit of a slippery slope. And again, I think we've had this conversation with council in years past and the team about maybe trying to do that, and it was just, it wasn't suggested. So we try to offset it with talking about wind, right? The whole math needs to math, why towers, you know, where can we do it in other places where you guys could more self-insure and not have to deal with a bodily injury or legal matter that could really cost over many, many years.
Does the number of drivers factor in? If we have
No, ma'am.
No?
No,
Okay.
ma'am. Yeah.
All right. So
Sometimes with other carriers it does, but not with these guys.
Okay.
It's just either they're approved or they're not approved based on driving record.
So we're looking at a total of about 82 between vehicles and trailers.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct? Thank you.
Mr. President, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Alex, if if a company driver, an approved driver were to be involved in the catastrophic accident, what is the total coverage that the company would have to protect itself in that regard from the commercial?
We've got the $1 million CSL and then we've got a $5 million umbrella. So 6 total.
Seems low.
And we have asked for higher limits from Grundy before with just so you know, with maybe not specifically you guys, but with other systems that we insure, they will only go to 5 million.
Gotcha.
We've seen that more and more. There was a time, probably 8+ years ago now, where you could get a $10 million umbrella without asking any questions. It's just the litigious world that we're in now. Everybody wants to cap their losses. So if it was a situation where we could get an excess to an excess, they would probably break that up. We see this with our clients that have $10 million policies. They're usually 2 and 3 excess liability policies that stack up to 10, right? So you, 2, 3, so on and so forth. But if it was something that you guys were interested in, we can certainly get some numbers for that and kind of a cross-reference to see what that would be. But Grundy themselves, and their umbrella goes over all of these lines of coverage that you see, okay, which can be rare in the insurance world, okay? So like your EPLI and your professional liability and different things like that, usually you've got to get separate for each of those. So even if we were to get an umbrella over the umbrella, it would probably be limited to just auto, work comp, and general liability, which are the main things you're worried about anyway, typically. But if that's something that the board would like to see, we can go through that exercise.
Any other discussion? Can I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the policies from Underwood Anderson as presented for the total of $462,658.18.
Can you clarify that that's for Holly DeBar Water System, because we've got Club at Hidden Creek coming up next?
I will amend that to approve the Holly Nabar Water System policies from Underwood Anderson as presented under New Business 1 for a total of $462,658.18.
Second.
Any other discussion? Let's call a vote. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Niedermeyer, please continue us through the Club at Hidden Creek.
Sure. Same. Both these sets of policies renew at the same time. So again, we start the process about 3 months out. All the same rules apply. It's literally the same meeting. We just move stacks of paper. So likewise, building values, et cetera, all the same stuff for Holly Navar. Some different things with a golf course. There are actual golf course programs, okay? So I'll talk about overall insurance products based on the class of business. Going out to market this year, we have access to, it's not a new program, but it's somewhat of an exclusive program. And when you look at the carriers there, it's called Starwind, okay, just so that we're all looking at the same thing. But a golf course program gives things, and we had one several years ago when they would give it. They give things like errant golf ball coverage for car windshields and kind of some legal coverage for your golf pro. And something that was really huge back in the day, 8+ years ago, was called tees and greens. They would give wind coverage for tees and greens, which means if a hurricane or any kind of wind event blows a tree down, gouges the green, right, there would be coverage for that. As you can imagine, that has gone away because they paid out more than enough claims. It is very hard to find, but what we can get is some tees and greens coverage, excluding the wind. The question is, what does that do? Well, there's still lightning. You know, you can still hit some irrigation systems and things like that. And you can also have, I don't know, a kid on a dirt bike that pulls donuts on a green or something. You know, there are things that happen. So the Starwind program is a golf program that has those coverages on it. Auto Owners, which is a great company, we have done business with them for years and years. The club has been insured with them for, I don't know, probably at least 5 years now. It is not a golf course specific program, it is just basic general liability. So in our efforts to go out with our access to Starwind this year, and there's another company called Fairway Underwriters that does a pretty good job. I will say they tend to be, I have another golf course written with them, they do seem to be a little bit slow to respond. I don't know if it's because they're based in California or not. They still have not given us an indication. I'll be happy to report to Jeff and Barbara once they do decide to give us an indication. But I wouldn't hold out. Starwind has just gotten more bells and whistles than that particular Fairway program will, especially for the cost and knowing what their rates are with a couple of other golf courses that we have. Pending what the premium is, it would be the recommendation to go with Starwind anyway. So once again, it was kind of about property values this year, outside of what I just said, and some general liability and the little Starwind program, which does not include the wind, okay? So the similarities between Holly Navarre and this are that. Where we are in the county, just everybody's afraid of the wind down here, okay? So some pretty good property valuation increases. I think that should be higher there. 1.3 to 1.8. The excluding wind piece went from 3.3 to 5 million. We also have, if you'll see there, then the wind only, there's a 60,000 with the star asterisk there. That's to add the clubhouse back. I think that was a request. What would the cost be to add the clubhouse to the wind only? That is our in-house estimation, okay? Frontline, if they'll write it, does a fantastic job. We were emailing with the underwriter earlier. He gave us an updated quote. It was $54,000 to include the clubhouse, but it wasn't with the increased value on the cart barn and the maintenance building. So we emailed him again this afternoon to get them to update that. I would probably estimate that, again, we put 60, it's probably gonna be 58. If I were trying to be real on point. But again, property increases, just valuations, the same thing we did at Holly Navarre. The team just decided, I think we're just a little bit underinsured, and that's part of that there too, on some rate increase. And as you'll see, there is a little bit of a rate decrease. Yeah, it was 111 last year. If you look at the second renewal option, which is this to move to the Starwind program, it's also moving the autos to Progressive. Yes, you were reading that right. Progressive is cheaper than anybody there. That's something that we have seen this year. If it's not a program specific, like Grundy is, Progressive actually has got some pretty good auto rates right now. And coverages being the same. So you will see, if we were to renew it with the property valuation increases and some payroll bumps and some gross sale bumps, I don't know what you guys are doing at the golf course, but it seems to be popular, more than it was 2 years ago even, massively popular, just as far as a gross sale goes. So renewal option 1 would be to stay with auto owners, which is who we've been with, but there is a little bit of a decrease there, and it actually may end up being a little bit more than that, depending on what Frontline comes back with on the clubhouse, should you guys want to include it, okay? Any specific questions?
I've got some, mostly I need an annual refresher of the wind policy, what it does or doesn't cover, in particular on the clubhouse.
Yes, sir.
Like, you mentioned hurricane, so if a hurricane comes, knocks it down, it's covered. Hurricane blows a tree through it, it's covered. Hurricane knocks a hole in it, it gets flooded, it's covered.
Wind-driven rain?
When's it not
Yeah.
covered?
From a wind standpoint?
Yes.
I'm going to do my best to not get in the insurance weeds. There's a term called proximate cause.
Okay.
Okay, if the wind, thus the tees and greens thing with trees, okay? If the wind blows the pine tree down and gouges it, it's proximate cause, or what did it come from? It came from the wind. That's why the tree blew over, all right? As long as it is proven, we're gonna put that in asterisks, but as long as it's proven that it was wind-driven or pushed by the wind, then it would be considered wind coverage.
Okay.
So it could be a heavy gust. We've seen these straight line winds that have come through here in the last couple of years. Thank goodness we didn't have any this year, but the past couple of years, we've had some of that issue. That's wind. Wind and hail, okay? Hail is part of that too.
Okay.
So yes, if wind causes a tree to poke a hole in the tile shingled roof of either of those buildings out there, then yes.
Okay.
I seem to remember that the deductible was a factor in us dropping the coverage on the
Yes, sir.
the clubhouse. What's the deductible for a wind event?
I think Frontline has kept it at a 3%. Of the building value.
This is 5 million?
Get to my page.
5's all of them,
Oh, wait a minute.
all the combined value.
Hang on, let me get there.
Doesn't say.
Let's see. It is a 5%, excuse me.
So it would take a pretty substantial wind event to
Give us any money back.
to even see a dollar on that.
Probably
you know?
6 figures.
Yeah.
So I have a off-the-wall question for anybody. Oh, you may know, you were here. So did the clubhouse survive Ivan? Was it rebuilt?
It survived, yeah. I don't know what damage it had, but it
It's significant damage.
Yeah, wasn't there some damage, cause they worked out a temporary
Yeah.
trailer for a while,
yeah.
wasn't that Ivan?
It had significant damage. But I don't know how much it was covered by insurance and how much was deductible.
Right.
I think they ended up paying most of that significant damage was paid for out of the
Deductible?
Well, back then, it would have been.
1% or 2%.
Oh, probably not even. I mean, I think it pretty much took that hurricane, that 2 years of hurricane season, that's really kind of what changed into percentage wind deductibles. You used to have a 500, especially Grundy. I mean, Grundy had like $1,000 wind hurricane hail deductible up to, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, maybe a little bit shorter than that. And then they started again, just fleeing the wind scene. So yes, that's my point of us discussing the math, having to math, is I'm always happy to help do that math and make sure we're all thinking outside the box. So yes, it would take a pretty good wind event.
So with a $60,000 premium that, you know, you're paying whether you have an event or not, and then you factor in, you gotta have a deductible, high deductible, 6-figure deductible for it to really pay out. You know, you're looking at, let's say 160 plus damage before the insurance would be a benefit. I'm inclined to leave the wind and hail off again.
It's on mine.
That's a 61.9% increase over last year just for the occupied buildings coverage. Also, late, I believe it was last month or the month before, did we not have to make over $9,000 payment because the club at Hidden Creek made more money? So
Yeah.
can you explain how that works?
Yes, ma'am. Most, that would have been from general liability, okay? Workers' comp and general liability policies are typically auditable, okay? So part of our renewal discussions 3 months out is how do we think the club is gonna perform from a gross sales standpoint, right? And that's broken down from food and liquor and sale, just, there's about 3 different categories. So depending on the class of business and depending on what's going on, that can be predicted or it can't. And it was about a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, that's what I say, for whatever you guys are doing seems to be working because the gross sales were just up somewhat significantly, and I don't know that you guys maybe projected that or just saw it coming.
And what's being assessed there?
Yeah.
You're penalized for success. What are they
I know.
quantifying?
I
there?
know. So they have to draw a rate somehow. Okay, workers' comp values risk and charges premium based on payroll, because that's what workers' comp is, right? It's not only the number of humans you have working. Well, how do we come up with the rate? What are we going to base it off of? Payroll. That's what they base it off of, right? Can't base it on sales, because hopefully we're not selling humans. So it's based on payroll. So depending on the class of business, like for construction, for example, it is typically payroll based. Okay, depending on what kind of a general liability product it is, it can sometimes be based on gross sales, but because it is a consumer based business model, it's sales based.
Thank
Okay.
you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much.
Yeah.
So guys, I just want to throw something in here to my two directors who don't like wind insurance. When the storms hit Hillsborough County and Pasco County a couple of years ago, we saw entire businesses go out of business because not just the hurricane hit the building, but the ancillary tornadoes. Pull that roof off that building and it rains 9 or 10 inches on that building, it's done. We may as well walk away from it. So do we want to run the risk of that kind of damage to that building, which would be denied because all the water damage was caused because the wind took the roof off? Do we want to do that? Do we want to run that risk?
That's what I needed a refresher on each year. I knew it was something that didn't make sense. So without the wind, hurricane causing a problem, no matter what it does, if it's wind related only or instigated by wind, we're out of luck.
Correct.
To the point that was just brought up, once we determined that it was wind that ripped the roof off,
Correct.
even if it only took a portion of the roof off, and it takes out the offices and all the inventory and the entire pro shop, all of the sheetrock is gone. We gotta get in there and mitigate it, pull all the mold out. We're talking about a total loss on a multi-million-dollar building if we're not willing to insure it. So, as you're making your decisions on how to vote, give that some thought.
And
Any
if
other
we-
discussion?
And if wind, just because as your counselor, I'm risk averse, but if wind blows over a tree that hits a power line that lights the place on fire and it burns to the ground, it's wind.
Total
It's not
loss.
fire.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That's a really good example.
Again, apologies for my voice.
I hate these discussions.
And Alex, if I could ask the same question on your automobile on the club, just to
Yeah.
highlight for the directors. You have $1 million limit on the auto and you have a $1 million
Correct.
umbrella.
Yes,
So
sir.
you have a total, if you had a catastrophic automobile accident at the club, 2 million.
Yes, sir.
And the difference in the cost between the 5 million umbrella for the club was,
You know what? I don't think we have done for whatever reason, just haven't had a 5. Again, happy to get that number. That's, and this particular, this program, I think they will only go to, no, they'll go to 5. This one I think will go to 5.
So
And we can add that later if we'd like to.
Yes, sir, that's just an endorsement to it. As long as they'll do it, you know, and if they'll only go to 2 or 3 and we want to go to a 5 and get that number, that's no problem.
What is defined as vehicles? Is that the tractors, is that, are
No,
those
no,
the
ma'am.
carts, are those
A
only the vehicles?
license for road use,
How many are those?
just one truck.
that truck doesn't really leave the property that much. I'd say the risk of some type of accident involving another motorist is extremely small on that vehicle.
Any other discussion?
So did I hear
Yes.
it only covers that one pickup truck, is what it would cover? Truck, okay.
I do.
Not the umbrella coverage, the umbrella
It's
coverage
everything.
Everything.
would cover everything.
No, if it went to 5 million, the 5 million,
It
oh,
would cover
would the
everything.
umbrella cover everything?
Yes.
Anything?
The
out there,
umbrellas
not
are
just
$1 million policy.
Right now,
Umbrellas go over work comp, employer's liability
Everything.
on work comp,
Okay.
general liability, and auto liability. Except for the Grundy package, which we already talked about. That goes over a lot more than that.
but it's not 3 individual umbrellas, it's one umbrella, it'd be
Correct.
5 million over everything if we
Yes,
went
sir.
to 5 million.
If you went to 5 million, yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes. Or whatever we wanted to go underlying. I mean, we write umbrellas sometimes and people don't want to put their auto under it for whatever reason. Well, because it's expensive. So we'll just do the workers' comp and GL if that's what they want to do from just a cost standpoint. But, which is short-sighted because if you're going to have a loss, it's probably going to be from the autos. In most cases.
Okay, so I have a question. So, I had questioned the same thing last year about the wind,
Yes, ma'am.
because I had a problem when Ivan came through and it blew our, just destroyed our house.
Yeah.
And they said it was wind. I didn't have wind coverage. So then I know what it's like to have to rebuild from scratch, and then, everything just goes sky high. You can't hardly afford it.
Yeah.
So you're saying about 60,000 for wind would be in addition to this 180,000 that,
No, ma'am. That's
okay, so that 180,000 already has that included?
Correct, and that's why
Okay.
that's why we tried to put it down all the way below.
All right.
The number above that, where it's not the wind included, would be if you guys chose not to take the wind coverage.
Now, do we know what the value of that building is, the clubhouse?
What did we value that at? I think we asked for it at 3. Yeah, 3 million.
3 million?
Yes, ma'am.
And what would our deductible be on that?
Be 5% of that.
150 grand?
Well, I'm sorry.
Alright.
It's 5% of what the yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
It'll be in a total loss, right?
Yes, sir.
But if we only had $500,000 worth of damage, is it 5% of the 500?
Well, it's the building value. Yeah, it's the building value.
It's the building value.
Yes, sir. Yeah. What I was about to do was go into talking about co-insurance, but I'm not gonna do that because it's different. No, that is of the building value. That's what your deductible would be.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
Well, I'd like to get question answered, just so we do understand the wind and the property value. So on page 22, over the premium summary for the golf course one, got wind-only property values went from 1.3 to 1.8 million. So is that for all the properties, not including the clubhouse?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, the buildings that we have requested without the clubhouse, yes.
Okay, so it's just, doesn't have the clubhouse.
Yes, sir.
So right below it, excluding wind property values went from 3.3 to 5.2. I'm sorry, I'm not an insurance guy, I don't understand it. What's the difference between those two lines?
There are some buildings that we have increased on the underlying package, but not on the wind quite yet, because the clubhouse wasn't included on the wind last year, but we went ahead and bumped it.
So are you saying that 5 million is the clubhouse? And
The 5 million includes the clubhouse.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, do you know what buildings are not included? You mean like the lavatories are not included, or the?
I don't think those buildings on the course are included there, no.
Yeah, okay. But the maintenance shed and the cart
Car barn
Yes.
and the
would be.
clubhouse.
Correct.
Okay, so those are the 1.8 and the clubhouse is roughly 5.2. And whatever 2 toilets take to build. Okay. Okay.
And I want to make sure that I am in no way trying to persuade to not purchase wind. I just want to put that out there. The selfish part of it is that we'd love for you to buy the wind, okay? All we try to do is just talk about it. It's just have a discussion.
I understand.
Okay.
Too late. No, I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
So can I get a motion?
Yes. I'll change my tune a little bit, and I will move that we approve the TCHC insurance renewal package policies in the amount of $180,317.59, which I believe includes the wind covering the clubhouse.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Any other discussion? Let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Who was that? Mark?
6 aye, 1 nay. Thank you. Let's move on to the CEO update, Mr. Crigler.
Yes, I'll just run through a few quick items. On the HR side of things, our Director of HR did leave the company. He relocated to Tennessee. We have not going to fill that position immediately. We have had discussions with our other HR staff, and we're covering all the bases right now, and we're evaluating the need to fill that position. So you'll hear more on that in the future. We've pretty much completed our annual commercial review. I wanted to update the board on that. We have essentially just two businesses that we've worked out the total amount they have to pay. They're in the process of paying and getting in touch with Amber and getting it set up, but we've come to an agreement with all of them. There is one business that we did grant some extra time, and we'll be reviewing them at the end of June to see where their usage is. Hopefully it's gone down, and we'll have some good news for them, but we'll know that at the end of June. So that process is wrapping up. We did have one of our local plumbing contractors was working with one of our veteran members who was having a problem with a leak at their house. So we do want to commend that vendor. It's my understanding that the issue's not quite resolved. They're still working through it. This has gotten to be a pretty large leak in terms of dollar value, and it's ongoing. So we're hoping it gets resolved quickly so we can help the customer in terms of a leak adjustment. But Amber's working on it. I think she was trying to reach out to the member this week. Thanks, Alex. So we'll have more information on that. Did want to announce we agreed to have a blood drive on August the 4th. This is something we've done. We try to do it twice a year with One Blood. So we'll have them back over on August the 4th. We typically get pretty good participation on those. I did want to comment on our strategic plan implementation. The consultant for Arcadis did send out the draft version of the final document to the board. He is looking for comments. So if you guys can kind of review that, it's a PDF document. It's kind of in PowerPoint format, but it reads like a booklet almost. So if you could look through that, it would be helpful. Like I said, he's looking for comments so he can wrap up his task. The other item on the strategic plan will be as part of new business, item number 6. We'll be considering some work at the wastewater treatment plant for asset management that is directly a recommendation from the strategic plan. So that's the progress on that so far. We did include the year-to-date, well, as we corrected in the minutes, the total to-date costs of the Romy White versus HNWS matter, $47,151.01. That's all I have.
Thank you. Let's move on to the director's update. Mr. Linnell?
So as you see, as Barbara goes over the numbers, I mean, we're doing really well this year on net income. Just note that we are receiving a substantial amount of reimbursement from the county for the Eglin project, if I remember correctly. So it won't continue ad infinitum, but for this year, we're starting off well. And something we need to discuss at some point is what do we do with those funds? I mean, we took out a bond for that, correct? So the question is, where's that money going? Is it going back to the bond or something else? So that's discussion for another day, but that's something I think we should talk about. Otherwise, everything was pretty much, through the first 4 months, most things were right around 30%, basically on budget, no hiccups. From my memory, Barbara, do you have, not Barbara, sorry. Pam, you got anything else you want to add on O&M?
I'll just add, that was pretty good, right on the nose, and I just wanted to add that, we did receive $327,091.12 from, Eglin, for the Eglin. And then we did have a 2025 audit progress billing for $24,664.30. But overall expenses were right in the ballpark, not much more than what we had last year, so that's excellent, considering the economy.
And did you have a 401k meeting or no?
No, we didn't
Okay.
have one,
Right.
but I did check and everything was, the same. And, the pension plan is fully,
Good boss.
funded.
Thank you. How about capital improvements? Ms. Lindsay?
Yes, so our monthly meeting, we went over the Master Booster Pump Station project over on Frontera. It is progressing, although the project is currently behind schedule. Master Booster Pump Station Transmission Main project will be moving forward soon to bid. And the VT SCADA install at the wastewater treatment plant started the first week of June. Started June 1st, so that's all I have for the CIP.
You want to walk on into the Club at Hidden Creek board?
Yeah. Yeah, so this month, the Club at Hidden Creek is reporting the same positive trend. It's continuing for the food and beverage sales for May. Overall revenue is also on a positive trend as well. Bridge replacement project, the preliminary design was sent out to the board members. It was received from the engineering firm. Came in with 3 different options that staff is discussing, timber option, single span modular, and a 3-span modular bridge. For the entrance sign project, the sign designer so far has not been responsive, so staff is working to try to get a response from them for some additional renderings for those signs at the entrance of the club. Patio project is a little over halfway complete. The coating is to be completed about the 3rd week of June, and that is weather dependent. Then the drainage portion of that work has been completed to date. And then last but not least, the bunker improvement project is still underway. The staff are currently getting quotes for that work.
So the planning is still underway.
That's
Okay. Right.
Thank you. Let's move on to Fairpoint. Mr. Krigler?
Not a whole lot to report at Fairpoint. We are looking at acquiring a piece of property in East Milton for another well site, and we did have an attorney draft an agreement for that, which we'll be discussing with that property owner. So we're hoping to have that negotiation resolved here soon so we can proceed with the test well.
I see Mr. Phillips is not here. Do you want to get us up to speed on Messi?
I don't have a whole lot of updates for Messi. I know they're staying busy. Dale has been heavily involved with the town of Century lately. That's kept him pretty busy. And I know he's got a community event with the town of Vernon that he'll be attending as well, that we sponsored, I should say. And that's for a July 4th celebration.
Okay, and finally, Benefits Committee.
Yes, we met last Thursday, and the committee reviewed a proposed voluntary PTO donation policy. A few details are still being finalized and will come to Jeff before reaching the board. The committee also discussed PTO rollover limits and maybe a possibility of buyback option up to 40 hours. But all of this, and we did briefly discuss health care, but when we receive or update anything, we'll be giving it to Jeff to bring to the board after his approval.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 5, a review of the unaudited April 2026 financials.
All right, so for the month through April, for April, we had a total revenue of $1,898,664.96. Total expenses of $1,084,638.30, with a total net operating income of $814,026.66. The water and wastewater system capacity fees were up from previous year. The water and wastewater sales were up from previous year. Overall total revenue is above budget at 35%. The overall general administration expenses are under budget at 30%. The overall water expenses are under budget at 32%. And the overall wastewater expenses are under budget at 28%. Like Don said, we're doing great.
Perfect. Any discussion on this?
Make a motion to approve the April unaudited financials as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? And we have a vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? 7 ayes. Okay, let's move on to the asset management. Item number 6 on the strategic plan, Mr. Krigler.
Yeah, so as part of the strategic plan, the group decided we need to focus on having an asset management plan done for our system that will allow us to kind of prioritize where we need to make those unrestricted capital improvements. So we feel like the place to start is the wastewater plant. The wastewater plant has the most individual items and moving parts. It's the most complicated of the systems that we run. So we feel like that's a good place to start, and we feel like getting a large engineering firm to do this asset management plan for us makes a lot of sense for the plant. When we get outside the plant, talking about the well houses and the other infrastructure, we feel like Messi can handle that. They can do that plan for us. But this one, to get us going, we recommend going with one of these firms. We did get 3 quotes for this work. And the scope of this work, essentially, they'll come into the wastewater plant. They'll bring a multidiscipline team, which will include a civil engineer. It'll include a mechanical, structural, as well as electrical, so they can look at all the different systems. Basically catalog all these assets, so we'll have essentially a glorified list of all the assets. And then what they do is they'll do like a risk assessment and give it like a 1 to 5 score in terms of its risk to how critical it is, and also look at kind of consequence of failure. In other words, if this were to fail, how is it, how critical is it to the operation? So what that'll allow us to do is come up with a kind of like a CIP for the plant itself and where we need to focus our attention at the plant. I think there's enough different systems and moving parts out there that there's a lot we could focus on. So this will help narrow our focus in terms of where to start making repairs out there and replacing things before they fail, identifying things that are near the end of their life that are considered a high risk, and getting those replaced now instead of waiting for failure, which could cause a sewage spill or some other type of problem. Like I said, we got 3 quotes for this work. The low bidder was HDR Engineering in the amount of $87,764. We do have unrestricted budget funds available for this in the line item general WWTP repairs. So we're recommending moving forward with this.
Mr. Krigler, so they realize that we're a nonprofit, right?
Mhm.
Are they giving us any preferential estimates it's,
No, unfortunately, probably not. But most of their work is for municipalities, so that's who they're used to kind of working with, so.
number two, so they are going to be doing life cycle replacement categories for the items that they put into this cataloging. And number three, when are they going to, if we approve this tonight, when are we looking at them starting, and what would be the expected date of completion?
Yeah, so we're looking at 24 weeks for total project duration. And they want to get out here, do the kickoff probably in July, and do the work at the plant July, August timeframe. So 24 weeks total, to hopefully be done before the end of the year for sure.
Thank you.
And is this on the main plant only?
The main plant only, the Holly plant would be done at a later date. And it has less moving parts and stuff, so it's not as critical.
So I think you answered the question, but I want to ask it anyway. So is that 24 man weeks or 24 calendar weeks, regardless of how many people they have out here?
No, 24 calendar weeks.
Okay. And so essentially they're going to develop an inventory for everything that's out there. Are they starting from scratch, or do we have a list that?
We don't have a real good one.
Okay.
We'll give them the as-built, which has, the drawings of everything, but they'll have to make the list.
Okay.
Just from a cost-benefit standpoint, it seems like a pretty high price tag to do this asset management. That's my opinion on it.
I don't disagree, but we, did get three bids, and this was the lowest. There was one slightly over 100,000, so.
To clarify, could you summarize what the ROI on this would be in your estimation, Mr. Krigler? An example, or many?
I mean, the ROI would be averting some major disaster where we have a major failure that we didn't address, and, a component fails and causes us to have a spill or something. And had we done this work, perhaps we would have had that on the plan to address sooner. So I think that's the best example.
So I would chime in with what Jeff said. Won't go over well, might be a good quote. I'm not really concerned what the ROI is. To what Jeff said, I'm worried we want to prevent anything catastrophic happening. With any luck, as far as I'm concerned, there'll be no ROI. We'll have everything documented and cataloged, and we'll replace things when we need it, and there's never an issue. But these are the type of things, to me, there's not necessarily an ROI that we should be looking for on this type of study. And I'm happy to be berated with differing opinions. But I just don't think there's gonna be one we can count on. Or, I don't wanna count on one. Put it that way.
Well, even doing this, though, is not gonna totally prevent anything catastrophic from happening or a failure.
But it should greatly reduce it.
It would reduce it, but $90,000?
Yep.
I don't know.
We've already spent, about $120,000 in 2 actions tonight, so that's what my concern is.
Well, to Mark's point, it is a lot of money, and to my point, there's not a lot, I don't think of an ROI on it. However, I think we gotta get down to, it's gonna come back to our decision as a board, that we wanna go forward with a real strategic plan. And what are the points of that strategic plan? This is one of them. And we voted on them, and I know not everybody agreed on all the votes. But, this came out of our strategic plan, if I remember right. So it's still down to, do the board still feel we want to go forward with strategic plan implementation? And I, for one, do. So I'll be voting yes if we get to a motion, but I understand the concern.
Let me clarify my concern. Staff has already identified that there is money set aside in the unrestricted capital improvements plan budget line item under the general wastewater treatment repair for this item, number 6. Now, going back to the insurance for the club at Hidden Creek and Holly Navarre water system, where will those increases be sustained from, Mr. Krigler? How will we accommodate those? Are those,
I don't have the budget, usually we budget for a little more than the existing premiums on insurance. We typically do budget for an increase.
Yeah, I do not.
I don't have that in front of me though. We can get you
I
that
wanna say
figure.
450, but I'm not
Yeah.
positive.
450 what?
Versus the four,
That
so
was
she's saying budgeted 450,000
I think.
for the $462,000 renewal. So, like I said, we typically try to estimate, higher premiums.
So if that's true, the delta would be 12,000,
Right,
and that would be assimilable.
right. Now keep in mind, that probably won't be the case on the golf course because we did add the wind coverage for the clubhouse, so it probably will be higher there than what we budgeted.
Okay, so this is gonna be a capital improvement, unrestricted, so it will not interfere with our insurance.
Yes, this has nothing to do with the insurance. She was just
Right.
talking about dollar values. That's correct.
So it's kind of,
I was just watching the pocketbook.
Yeah, so Jeff, this would help to identify equipment that needs to be replaced before it fails,
That's correct.
which potentially, as you said, prevents a catastrophic failure or some other issue.
That's the
So,
idea.
I know we just had one a month or so ago, pretty good outlay for the plant. I see number 7 is another pretty good outlay for the
Mhm.
plant. Would these types of things, this what we're talking about, being able to identify and plan for so that we can budget them as opposed to being hit with this all just as a surprise?
Absolutely.
Well, and I want to ask that, we have a lot of expert operations folks. Don't they know what individual items that comprise the wastewater treatment plant as far as equipment? Don't they know what the expected life cycle are of those pieces and what the replacement would eventually be?
Yes, they do. I think that the staff there is knowledgeable about wastewater treatment, but they're not real good at compiling, reports and I really, quite frankly, in the planning department. So I think that's where we can do better, but, that's why we're recommending a consultant here is, this doesn't seem to happen if it's just the staff looking at it.
Well, if we had an inventory list of the items, we could actually do a first run and let AI help us and save a bit of money here, I would think.
So from what I heard, we don't have the expertise in-house to do that. We wouldn't necessarily have the expertise to do the estimation of life remaining and cost for when it goes, or likelihood of failure combined with cost if it does fail.
That information is out there and it's being utilized in corporations and utilities, more
Yeah,
and more.
And I think they developed it. I mean, the manufacturers where I would expect we go back for a lot of the data, but somebody's got to contact the manufacturer.
Right.
And
and AI isn't always correct, and you have to know what you're doing to put into AI to get the information back.
That's why I talked about the list, the specific list, and that could certainly be a straw man, and then it could be reviewed and perfected, but at least it would be a first run.
Mr. Krigler, I just want to check with you on the time frame that they're proposing to complete this. I know 24 weeks sounds like a lot, but it does sound like they're having to do a lot of kind of new inventory. Do you feel like 24 weeks is an adequate amount of time for them to complete this?
I think it is. It kind of hinges on them getting out here in a timely manner when they say they will and getting the field work done. So if they can do that, I think they can finish in that time frame. I do. And this does include a summary and presentation to the board as well at the end of the task.
Any other
I mean,
discussion?
So summary presentation to us, but it, we'll have an asset package.
Oh, yeah, you'll have a
Right.
report, and then but they're gonna come
Okay.
and talk about it too.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Great. So do I have a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the proposal from HDR Engineering in the amount of $87,764 to develop an asset management plan for us.
Second that.
Any other discussion? Let's have a vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay.
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 5 aye, 2 nay.
Was it two? I thought I heard three voices. Just two? Okay.
Let's move on to number 7, Mr. Krigler.
Yeah, so two more items that hit the pocketbook here. So the first one is, we'd like to replace the clarifier arms on 2 of the clarifiers at the plant. This is for clarifiers number 1 and 2. We actually have a diagram here just to explain to everybody what we're doing here. So the way these clarifiers work is the semi-treated wastewater comes in from the aeration basins into the top of this. Everything kind of settles down. What doesn't settle goes over the weirs into the side, and that's your clarified effluent, which is eventually going to be the effluent that's discharged. The solids settle out and go into that pipe in the center, and they're routed back to the aeration basins as part of that circulation process. So what we're talking about replacing here tonight is the arms that sweep along the top of the clarifier that essentially skim solids and anything else, anything floating off the top, so that it doesn't go over the weir and into the effluent. So, and because that's the exposed part of the equipment, we see more corrosion and degradation there. So we expect the components under the surface to be in better shape, but these parts that are exposed to the air are definitely rusting and in need of replacement. So we got 2 quotes for this work. One from a local company called Pump and Process, the other from RSG Clarifier Experts. They're an outfit that kind of travels around and does this type of work. We budgeted $202,000 as a standalone item in the unrestricted budget. And tonight we're recommending approval for Pump and Process in the amount of $196,156 to replace the arms on both of those clarifiers.
So Jeff, what's the age of the current clarifier arms?
20 plus years. These were done in the, probably a little bit old. They were done, I think, 1 and 2 were done in the 90s. 96. Yeah.
What's the lifespan of those things expected?
30 to 50 years is all you get out of the whole thing. So we're at the end on the arms. We haven't seen what's underneath the water level. When they get the clarifier drained, we'll be able to see better what's going on. But we really can't do a real assessment until you have the thing drained and offline.
Would this be something that the people that we just approved could look at as part of that plan?
I think what we could do, that's a good idea, Rob. What we could do is if the timing works out, maybe we have, when that crew is here doing their catalog, that would coincide with the clarifier being drained possibly, and they could look inside and do a more detailed assessment of the clarifiers. That'd be the best way to handle it probably.
So maybe hold off on this until we get an assessment from the engineering firm?
Well, now, I mean, we still need to get they need to visit the plant and they need to fabricate the parts before they do the actual replacement, take the thing offline. So I think the timing will work out well if we approve it and then coordinate with those groups to kind of be here at the same time and look at it.
They're still gonna be replaced. These are made out of steel, and they've been exposed to elements since '96-ish. And so they're in pretty rough shape.
Okay.
Of course, the ones that we're gonna replace them with are gonna be stainless steel. So you hope the lifespan will be much longer with these stainless steel arms versus the steel ones that were original to the plant.
So
How
what,
close are they just to crumbling?
You know, they would last a little bit longer, but they're not in good shape. I mean, there's a lot of rust popping through from the inside out, so.
so
They've
Mr.
already
Wells,
worked their way, off of the carousel in the center one time. The bolt sheared off because they were rusted, but we replaced those, I think 2 years ago, Judge. So it's, you know, getting to be critical that we get something done with it.
Mr. Wells, so you stated that originally those arms were steel, not stainless steel,
That's correct.
correct?
Mild steel, yes.
So were those replacements to begin with, or was it part of the original wastewater treatment plant
Part of the
setup?
original plant.
Okay.
What would the end result be if they failed before we replaced them?
If one failed, it's not a big deal. We would just, you know, move forward getting it replaced. If two failed, we'd kind of get in a pickle.
In other words, it's out of business.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think you would have
We'd be,
permit violations,
Yeah.
most likely.
Yeah.
we would probably just go to flow one half the plant.
Plus every other time.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the replacement clarifier arms from Pump and Process in the amount of $196,156 for the wastewater treatment plant.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
Question is, this is for the purchase of the arms, it does not include the labor to install them, or it does?
So it does.
It does.
It does
It's
include
full
that.
replacement.
All right.
Can we have a vote? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Krigler, take us through the truss transmission main.
Yeah, so this is one of our restricted capital improvement projects. This is the pipeline that connects our new master booster pump station to the existing Fairpoint transmission main on Montalban. This is the project we mentioned earlier that is currently in design. And this item is to purchase the materials for the project, which would be the pipes and valves and fittings, essentially, piping, valves and fittings, so we can do the project. So basically what we'd be, what we're saving here would be the tax on the materials, since we don't pay tax. We'd also be saving the contractor markup, since this wouldn't be part of the contractor's bid. There's also a time component to this. Some of this piping typically has a lead time, so it helps us get the materials here in time. So when when we have a contractor on board, he can go straight to work. So this is, amount of this work is $69,000.97, and essentially, like I said, it's to purchase the materials for the project that Messie's designing, that we will put out to bid, hopefully here late summer, early fall, and get it constructed.
And Mr. Krigler, you clarified that this is coming out of restricted CIP funding.
That's correct. There's an identified project for this in the restricted budget.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the
move to-
motion.
Go ahead. No, I've done two. Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase of the materials for the Russ transmission main project in the amount of $69,097.
Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Moving on, item number 9, the Sprayfield easement between the club and High Navarre Water System.
Yes, so, there's been some, desire to update the Sprayfield easement for a number of reasons. Mostly just readiness on our part, depending on what might happen out there. There was some things that were perceived to be loopholes and some language that we wanted to, revise and or change, to make this essentially a kind of stronger easement, going forward. So we directed legal counsel to do that. He hired a law firm by the name of Phelps here actually they're in Pensacola, to do that work. They have provided a draft of the updated easement. It's my understanding that legal counsel still has some comments on that they would like to go back and forth and revise there. So we're not ready to do anything tonight. This is purely really an informational item at this point, but we are making progress. And once again, when legal relays their comments to Phelps, they can revise those and we can have something more definitive to present.
So you are not asking for board action tonight?
No.
And I have some questions about this, because I didn't know anything about this until it was here on the agenda. So did the board approve this going to legal, or even looking over anything with the loophole?
No,
Am I
so-
the only one who wasn't?
Well, no, so the thought process was, I directed legal to look at the easement, with the thought being it really didn't require the board's vote to change it or to look at it, but certainly anything that we come up with that's, changed or the final version, then we can present that at a future time.
Now, what's the cost of us hiring this legal?
I don't have that. I don't get the impression he spent a ton of hours on it. I think it's gonna be fairly reasonable. I don't know if Mr. Dunaway wants to speculate or not. I don't think we've seen any numbers on that yet.
And I was wondering, what is the urgency to address this now? If there's no pending sale, why can't we just wait until a sale is on the table before we're updating it?
We could have done that.
So we could do that. I would rather do it earlier than later. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it should have been done 5 years ago when it first came up. And I would like to see it separate from whether we sell the course or not. I mean, we here, based on everything that I remember hearing, we still will need that spray field going forward for, unless we want to invest however much it would cost to build another rib up there, we need that going forward. Period. And I don't like the idea that we're hanging out there with, if something catastrophic happens, hurricane comes in and for whatever reason, we don't spray out there for 12 months. Somebody can say, you don't have that right anymore.
Well, that's what I was
would
gonna
just like
ask.
that gone. Yes, we own the club, we won't necessarily. So if you wanna think of it as going forward, I want us to not worry about, will we ever have the right to spray out there? And, if it turns out that this board or the next board or a board decides, hey, we're going to sell the course or look to sell the course, I want to clear that that's not part of it. We're not selling the spray field rights. We're not getting rid of the spray field rights. And it would be a non-negotiable entity. So if you want to add that caveat, but to me, this is just an error that should have been replaced a long time ago. And I don't feel any need to have it associated with a potential sale or thoughts of selling the golf course.
Okay, now this easement was drawn up for selling the golf course. It wasn't, so who's gonna sign the easement?
So
Is that
I
an
don't think
easement
that's
between us and you?
No, I don't think that's, first, I don't think that's a true statement that it was drawn up for a possible sale. I thought there's an existing easement. And I'm looking at Will and.
Yeah, I am too,
He's
'cause-
got the machinations going in his head, so what's the
If I
answer?
may. So the original easement that we operate under today is the easement that was originally promulgated by the original owners of the club many years ago, long before this entity purchased that spray field. And I love the way Mark qualifies that. We own a spray field, and whether it's a golf course or a city park, it's a spray field, and we have to have that in order to get rid of all of our effluent. And we will need it based upon every mathematical piece I can put together. And I remember hearing Phil tell us years ago that we have to have that and go forward. So we've already invested over $20 million to try to future-proof what's gonna happen with this RIB. That's costing every customer of the water system somewhere between 10 to 15% of their water bill every month for the last 3 to 5 years, so that we can do that. If we were to let that easement go, we would have to go back to our customers and ask for another 9 to 10 million and increase their rates just to keep us solvent as we go forward.
Well, I didn't see
So
that
that's where I'm
easement.
coming from, is that we should
Yeah.
close that loophole as quickly as we should. We should have done it in 2012 when we purchased it, and we didn't do it. We were not board members then. We didn't help them make a decision on that. But I think that we need to get rid of that loophole so that we no longer have that hanging over our heads. And no matter how the course is used, we have the right to spray.
I'd like to see that easement. I haven't seen that one. I saw the one that was drawn up for the sale.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. It's in our packets that we received in the board training. I would encourage you to go back and review that.
Now, why wasn't it put into our, as backup with our agenda then?
Is it in here?
Because we have a copy of it in the board training.
Notice the description.
Okay. Another
Alright.
thing I have too is that as we're gonna be going on with Eglin reuse soon.
Yes.
If we change that, language, does that mean that the updated easement protect our rights, Holly Navarre System's rights, even if spray uses drop significantly or goes dormant for a period of time?
Yes, that's the process, and that's what we're trying to do. Because what you'll hear from the staff is that they expect that they will reduce the amount of spray as of now, but as we continue to grow the amount of spray needed over time, and I've got the numbers here I'd be willing to share, as I understand it today, we're allowed to dispose under our existing 1,968,000 gallons per day. We are currently running at a projected 1,862,000 gallons for this year. As you look back, we are growing that at somewhere between 2.4 to 2.6% per year. As we look forward, somewhere around 2023, if we do not have the ability to spray at that field, we will be beyond our allowable spray and we'll be in trouble, which would mean somewhere in the 2029 area, we'll have to go to our customers and ask for more money. If we continue to spray there, then it'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2050 before we hit the point where we are out of room to spray. And by that time, we would have exceeded our ability to do anything at the wastewater treatment plant, because around 2024 or 2044 is where we should be at the maximum that DEP allows us. So this is future-proofing our ability to get rid of our effluent without having to go back to our customers and ask for an additional somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 to 10 to $12 million in order that we continue to grow this. That's why I'm a little passionate about let's fix this now and not wait until we're in negotiations with someone who wants to possibly buy the course, because we need the spray field.
Mr. President, as currently written, this document the easement document as currently written states that if we do not use that spray field for 12 consecutive months, we lose the right to hold that easement. Now, let me just play devil's advocate here. We've talked about catastrophic things. Mr. Niedermeyer was talking about wind, hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding. If we have something catastrophic that affects the course and the course can't be used, and we gotta close this, and we got a sinkhole here, that, as currently written, correct me if I'm wrong, if we're not using it for 12 consecutive months, we abdicate the right to hold that easement as this is currently written. Am I correct?
That's the way I understand it, and I'll defer to our attorney.
Do you want me to just answer this question, or you want me to go into the whole?
Just that question.
Yes, you would lose that.
Thank you.
But as long as we own the golf course, we do not need the easement. Correct?
Correct. You own the club at Hidden Creek. This is an agreement between the club at Hidden Creek and the Holland of our water system.
Correct.
You are both. Okay, they are separate entities, and it is a binding and legal document. So it certainly would affect the property as it does now. The current easement is a 1994 easement, a restated spray fill easement. It was granted by Magna Properties to the club at Hidden Creek. It is what is in play today, but again, you own it, so you tell the club at Hidden Creek what you want to do, and they do it because they are you. But the property is restricted by this easement, and it has this loophole that the president has correctly pointed out. And it is right to have an additional document in place, and it was why I recommended and the CEO hired attorneys from former Beggs and Lane Phelps to draft it, because I am the attorney for Holly Navarre Water System, and I didn't want to be the attorney drafting both the document and then advising you how to approve it, which is why when I got it, I almost 3/4 of the way redlined it, because it's going to be drafted in favor of Holly Navarre Water System.
Okay.
Because, as you have correctly stated, it is a spray field that we allow people to play golf on. It is your spray field. It is critical to your permit. It is integral to your operation. It is today integral, it is tomorrow integral, and it is in the future integral, unless you buy another piece of property, fund it, permit it, and have an affluent spray field, which in this day and time is difficult and probably would not be located in your franchise area because they're not in land unless it were Eglin, and you know what that process is to get more Eglin land. I do think, Mr. President, it'd be appropriate for me to ask you now also to make sure that my memo of June the 11th of 2026 is made a part of this minutes, because we are discussing an issue that was raised in that, in which I opined that it was appropriate to raise that, so we'll want to make the record clear there. So, to be clear, we are talking about a property right on a piece of property that's owned by the club at Hidden Creek. You are the owner of the club at Hidden Creek, so you can direct the management of the club at Hidden Creek to do what you tell them. But the property right that is in place today is a 1994 easement, which does have a hiccup in the fact that if you don't use it, it would go away. Would that be catastrophic? No, because you own it. Is it good to have something else in place? Certainly is not harmful, and it is certainly protective, and it does put it as a property right. We were directed to review it. I'm doing that. I have the comments. All I need is your direction to send them back to the other attorney, and with the guidance that you want me to protect the Holly Navarre water system to the maximum extent possible, because, and this gets to the confusion probably Director Hardy was talking about, Beggs and Lane did draft a draft easement 5 years ago as part of a potential sale package, which didn't go forward. And it was all in anticipation of this conversation that we're having now, but it's been sitting out there and nothing happened to it. But it was all drafted as if you were fixing to sell it. You're not fixing to sell it. That's why I'm redrafting it so that it doesn't say all that.
So you agree that the language in there that is continuously talking about the impending sale, that is not unbiased, objective. It's really not germane to redoing this document. So my recommendation was going to be to remove that sale language.
There are 2 pages, all of which are red. Every bit of that has been deleted. Yeah, exactly. That should not have ever gone forward. There was probably a lack of full communication when we were talking to Troop on, what we wanted. But yeah, every bit of that is been read out. That doesn't go forward.
Thank you.
This is not a document in contemplation of selling. There's no one on this board talking about selling, or at least they didn't tell me about it.
This action is just about protecting our easement, protecting our future, whatever we decide to do with the spray field, so we don't lose access to it by not using it 12 consecutive months.
It's to update this 1994 easement that doesn't have any, it's not based in reality.
Thank you.
And I was going by what the agenda says, that it has to do with the 2021 that Beggs and Lane had drafted.
Correct.
Is what I'm going by.
Right, and that was confusion. That is certainly my fault.
And that was to
The
sell.
only reason is because they had put some work into the body of an easement. And there are some words in here that are helpful and they'll be used, but it doesn't have anything to do with, and all of the whereas clauses talking about selling and all that I've deleted.
Okay,
They shouldn't be in there. They're not part of that.
okay,
It's not contemplated for that. It's contemplated to fix the issue of if you didn't spray for 12 months, you would lose that.
okay.
Again, just to be clear, you wouldn't lose the ability to spray, you'd just lose this easement, and then you would have directed me to, or put something in place, or not. You don't need it, because you own it. And remember, we've talked about this, but property is a bundle of sticks, and when you owe the fee, you own them all. An easement is just one of those bundles, but all you're doing here is, the club at Hidden Creek has all of the sticks right now, except for this bundle that you have, which is an easement, and you want this easement, you want a bigger stick. And so you're gonna get rid of this one and extract a bigger stick from the club at Hidden Creek. And it's gonna be more restrictive than even this 1994, and it's not gonna have a loophole.
Lots of discussion.
It was good discussion.
Thank you.
It's helpful.
Apologize for my fervor. Again, Jeff, no board action today. We'll be dealing with this after we finish rewriting it. And let's move on to.
And, Mr. President, I do have
Yes.
permission to have that included in the minutes, my memo.
Yes, thank you. So now we're on to number 10, the Club at Hidden Creek and the water system contributions.
Yeah,
And
so, you want me to start? I'll start this one. So, back in September of 2022, the board voted to reimburse certain spray field expenses to the Club at Hidden Creek. At the time, it included some real estate taxes, as well as the pump house O&M and hardware and software for the actual spray field. Then it was revisited again in May of '23, and it was changed to be just reimbursement of actual spray field expenses. Basically, that included the power bill plus the cost of anything that happens at the pump house there. I think the board tonight wants to reconsider that, based on really a couple things, but mainly the pending completion of the Eglin project and, discussion of how to handle this going forward in the future.
So before we get into it, Jeff, I meant to ask under your review, but status of the Eglin project. Now, I have questions whether I can ask them or not. Well, I can ask them. You decide if you can answer them. Is all the construction done? Pipeline construction done going up there?
All the pipeline's done, all the components, for the lift station are there. They're not done with the electrical, that's still what we're waiting on. The generator is there, it's been delivered.
Okay, so,
We're just not done with the electrical, so that's what we're.
so the next
working on.
question was going to be testing status. My guess is they have not begun to test the
They
ribs.
can't- Yeah, they can't run anything to get any flow up there, so, no, we have not done that.
And the best,
Um,
best information we have right now is Jacob's still saying late summer.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's correct.
thanks.
Piggybacking on that, have they already run the pipe from the Navarre Beach wastewater treatment plant underneath the sound? Is that done?
No, that's being bid, in 2 weeks. So the county will open the bids for that work in 2 weeks, and then they'll probably have 18 months to 2 years to do that. So that's not been done yet. And that's what's called phase 2.
Okay, gotcha.
So a little more color on why I asked for this. If you look at the history of the relationship between the club and the water system, at least 3 times that I can find, the water system contributed funds to increase the amount of water that we could spray on the spray field. Prior to us purchasing this spray field, the water company was not reimbursing the club for the expense of spraying on that spray field. We didn't cover the electric bill, we didn't cover the water, we only covered occasionally problems with the infrastructure. I understand why previous boards wanted to augment the expense in the past. However, for the last several years, the club has performed well and continues to perform well and is putting money in the bank to the point to where they're sitting on a nice little pile, enough that they're gonna be able to cover this themselves. And I don't think that we need to continue, I won't use the word subsidizing, but we don't need to continue to give them a monthly stipend for expenses that are not things that we covered prior to our purchase. It is 2 separate entities, they're financially healthy. I think it's time we cut the cord.
So I can appreciate that. First thought, so originally, when the company was not helping reimburse, I'm willing to bet that if you look at the amount of water being distributed, it was much less than now, and maybe they needed all that water. So they were doing what was right. It's just a guess. Now, we know they are getting way more water, and they have to spray it way more than they need. That's all. So in my mind, I'm still, until we can divert affluent somewhere else besides the spray field, I would still be in favor of, let's just maintain the path for the next 3 months. And then when Eglin's on board and we're not going over there and they're not getting any more water than whatever they tell us they need, I'd cut the cord completely. And you may be thinking that now, but I'd certainly be in favor of cutting the cord completely once Eglin's up, but my position would be I'd rather not until Eglin was up.
Mr. Steele?
Bill Teal, 2842 PGA. Okay, I was involved in this in 2022 that set up this thing, and the reason was because the previous boards, all they did was throw money at the problem. Whenever the club asked for money, they threw money at it. We had a study done that said if the golf course wasn't there the cost of you to maintain that spray field to the required level was somewhere in excess of $325,000 a year. Okay? What we were paying since 2022 when we've instituted this has been significantly less than that. So it's been a benefit of the members, a difference between what you paid, and Barb can probably give you the numbers, but I would say since 2022, we've probably paid less than $500,000, and for 5 years, it would have been 1.5 if the golf course was not there. So the golf course has been a benefit to the membership of Holly Noir Water System, okay? And I'm all in favor of amending it at some point, which of course would be up to probably the next board, because when Eglin comes on, you're only gonna need this as insurance policy when you have to spend. So at some point, until your capacity overruns, then you're gonna need to give it. But I think all your obligation, when Eglin comes online and is fully operational, your deal would be to give them free water and that's it. You put it into the pond and they pick up all the cost to spray it, because they can afford to do that, as long as they're making money. But there was a very good reason why we were reimbursing them for some of the expenses, because it was still a benefit to the members of Holly Noir Water System to have the golf course pay for pay for all of the grounds maintenance, basically, and the maintenance of the spray field system.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
if we don't implement something now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Krigler, that if we do this down the road, this would negate the juncture we had to address a couple months ago, which was now big tax returns. Club at Hidden Creek had to pay, or because they realized a profit, then we ended up paying, right?
Correct.
Right. So this might balance that out.
Well, so their taxes is based on their money they make, so I don't know that it affects that.
With the resolution and the policy that the board approved last year, that eliminated that issue anyway.
Well, because we called it a contribution, it was a
Correct.
little
So we
tit for
could
tat.
still continue to call it a contribution, and it's still not going to affect the taxes.
But if it's no longer a contribution, period, I see what you're saying. It was just a semantical thing. Well, you geniuses on finance, you figure it out, but that's my input.
It had to do with tax purposes, is what that was for. Because Holly Noir Water System is nonprofit. We don't pay taxes.
I'll leave you with, this was to be a discussion amongst the board. I'm not asking for any board action tonight, but I do want you to think about it. We have multiple opportunities coming on board, and there's very quickly no longer a need for the water system to contribute to the profitability of the club. And my opinion is the sooner we get out from underneath that, the better off we are, and we ought to do it quickly. So please give it consideration, and we can discuss it at a future meeting.
So whether right, wrong time to bring it up or not, something, well, sort of along the same lines. When it gets to the point where we're stopping contributions, the other thing we need to start considering is, we've got a subsidiary that's doing very well, and I wouldn't mind getting some of that profit to go against the rates that the members are paying directly, instead of just not charging the course for something else. So that's something to, where we pull back some of the profits going forward. We can discuss that in the future, or I would like to in the future.
I think it is a much bigger discussion. We have to look at the CIP for the Club at Hidden Creek, as far as, you know, some of the major expenses they got, and maybe do a cash analysis as to, you know, how much cash they need on hand to cover future needs.
Any other discussion? Let's move into engineering, the monthly operations report, and I see Mr. Phillips is not here. So unless you have something for us.
Just the
we'll-
handout, we do have the development project status as a handout, and then we did have our, monthly operation report, which has some flow data on it as a handout, so, y'all can review those at your leisure, and I can answer any questions about that, either afterwards or anytime.
Any questions on that?
I noticed the current month's I&I was a little bit high, but that year-to-date was actually low, so any indication as to why current month's I&I is where it is?
I think we feel like it's definitely, inflow into the system as opposed to infiltration. The inflow would be a response that we see immediately after a rain event. So I think what we're seeing is, you know, there's gotta be something somewhere when it rains, we're getting a high inflow into the system, which is moving the needle on those numbers. And it's just difficult to locate, and that's part of the challenge is how do we find that? But it's very tied to rainfall, and that's what we're seeing.
May wasn't that high of a rainfall month though, was it?
We had a couple of heavy downpours, but then it like quit.
Right.
So that's what else makes it hard to find, so. An event like we're having now, the inflow will certainly show up, but if there's any infiltration, maybe it'll start, the groundwater will get up high enough that we can actually start identifying that and put together some task orders to attack it. But we can't identify, we've done some basin calculations, we really can't find where it's coming in at, so. We need an event like this to find the I&I.
What did you say, Mr. Wells? You need a what?
We need an event like this, the rain event we're having now, to identify more.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then let's move on to the member forum. And I see we have two members. So we'll start with Mr. Ford. Please state your name and your address. And remember, we have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Lee Horde. I live at 8253 Navarre Parkway. Apartment D is in David 204, Navarre, Florida 32566. So I would like to present.
Did you move?
I'm sorry?
Did you move?
I did.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I knew something didn't sound right. Sorry for interrupting you, Lee.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I reclaim my time. So I put together a report for you guys as the Water System Resilience, Security, and Continuity Plan. Is it okay, Mr. President, if I read the executive summary?
Certainly.
Okay, great. Executive summary, Holly Navarre Water System provides one of the most critical services in Santa Rosa County, safe, reliable drinking water. The utility faces increasing threats from hurricanes, severe weather, cyber attacks on operational systems, cyber attacks on billing and member information, physical attacks on water infrastructure, deliberate contamination attempts, power failures and extended outages, supply chain disruptions, insider threats, aging infrastructure. Recent events across the United States demonstrate that water systems have become attractive targets for cyber criminals, nation-state actors, terrorists, and other malicious actors. The 2021 Oldsmar, Florida incident demonstrated that unauthorized access to water treatment facility can potentially alter treatment processes and jeopardize public safety. Fortunately, the attack was detected before any harm occurred. Federal agencies, including the EPA, CISA, FBI, and Department of Homeland Security, have identified water utilities as a critical infrastructure requiring enhanced resilience and cybersecurity planning. America's Water Infrastructure Act, the AWIA, specifically requires community water systems to conduct risk and resilience assessments and maintain emergency response plans. This report recommends that Holly Navarre Water System establish a comprehensive resilience strategy built upon 4 pillars: prevention and hardening, detection and monitoring, response and continuity operations, recovery, and restoration. The objective is straightforward: protect public health, maintain water service, safeguard member information, and restore operations quickly following any incident. So this is a plan that has some high-level detail, but it does have references as well. And there's a scorecard. So it's like a resiliency maturation scorecard. And then I also included a couple of my FEMA certifications in here to bolster my credibility. Who should I leave this with if anybody's interested? Emerald?
I'd like one.
I'll give it to Jeff. Thank you so much for entertaining this and considering the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horde. We
Miss-
appreciate it.
Mr. Horde, as a chemical engineer, we appreciate your inputs. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, hey, thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Time to spare.
Well done.
Please state your name and your address.
Chuck Pullman, 2956 PGA Boulevard. We received some great information from Will, our attorney, about this easement and rewriting the easement, getting rid of the loopholes that I guess is 32 years old, the last time it was written. I'm in favor of doing it as quick as possible, and I would urge the board when it comes up for a vote that we approve that and get it done as quick as possible, because I want to protect the Holly Navarre water system, and I want to protect the club at Hidden Creek. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eddie Noble?
He's already gone.
Thank you. That concludes the member forum. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.